Good morning, everybody, and a happy Friday to you. Welcome to Thrive, Not Just Survive. As you know, Fridays are where we have a very special guest. She's a doctor and she is in the house. So today we wanted to talk to you about coming out of sheltering. So, as we know, a lot of different countries, provinces, and states are releasing some of the initial shelter in place rules of people actually being able to come out and do some different things. But what we wanted to talk about today was that we're not really out of the woods yet. And Dr. Bryantbruce is going to walk us through the different strategies and things that we can do as we do come out and try to get back integrated back into our social world. But there's still some things to consider. The other thing that we are going to talk about is the emotional and the mental breakdowns that perhaps could happen as we do come out and what that means. So without further ado, let me bring the doctor out and so we can start this conversation. Hi, Cheryl. Thank you so much for coming and joining us again today.
Good morning, Nasira. Good to see you. And it's a wonderful day here. We have had strings of 100-degree, 105-degree weather. And today is the first day that it is cool enough for me to even want to sit out here and chat with you.
Well, it's worked out. And so today we're discussing a really important topic, and it's about, as we come out back integrating into the world, what this means in terms of people's well-being mentally and emotionally, what's going on. And also, I know that within this conversation, we're going to talk about the strategies and the things that you will encourage people to still keep in mind.
Yes, yes. Well, as we're coming out of sheltering in, everybody's really excited about starting to come out of sheltering in. And even though people have not been released from sheltering in, a lot of people have already abandoned it and are out in the streets and not being particularly cautious while they're out there. One of the things that I'm already seeing because people are already out in the streets is that people are starting to experience a lot of depression. That is not an unexpected thing. We see it all the time after disasters and major traumas like this has been. So people need to be aware that as they're coming out and they're anticipating everything's going to turn back to normal and they're very excited about it, they need to be aware that things are going to be very different. And they may experience a lot of negative emotions that they hadn't expected to feel in this era.
Well, that's, you know what, I think that's right. It's almost like grieving. Like if somebody dies, and you're really going through that process, it sounds like we almost have to go through that process.
You're absolutely correct, because what is happening is people are coming out expecting to go back to normal. That normal no longer exists. The situations have been changed. The world that we lived in has changed. We're not returning to the same world. All of the rules have changed. And even more importantly, we have changed. So we're coming back into the world with the expectation of going back into what we left, and we're coming out and we're seeing that it's very different. And so there is a grieving sort of experience, because we're grieving what we left behind. We miss that. We anticipated returning to that. We were embracing that. And it's kind of like an old relationship. We leave an old relationship. Things were not perfect, because I think we can all agree that the world that we left behind was in no way perfect. It was in trouble. People look at old relationships, and what they remember with the rose-colored glasses. They remember largely the good parts of it. Even bad relationships, We're able to survive bad relationships, say relationships where there was abuse even. We're able to survive that. Initially, there may be a lot of trauma and bad thoughts, but as time goes on, those get muted down and we start to remember the good things. And we're doing that with this situation. We're remembering all the good things about what we did. I was able to go visit friends and I was able to go do this and I was able to go do that. And we forget about all of this stress we were experiencing in our old world. And so our memory has idolized what we used to be living. And that's not real. And then what we're coming into is so significantly different. For one, because we don't have any rules yet. We live by sets of rules. We need sets of rules to guide us so that we feel comfortable, we feel warm and safe. And just like when we were little children, our parents gave us rules, and within those confines, we understood how things were supposed to work. The world had given us rules, and we understood how we were supposed to function in the world. But now, those rules have changed. Not only have the rules changed, we've changed, Nasira.
Right. And I guess that where we have to reacquaint ourselves with the different rules, the different of who we are, the perception of who we were and are. We all have to kind of get used to that, and we have to expect there to be a form of a learning curve. And for some, it's more difficult than others.
Yes, yes. For all of us, for some people, change, they embrace it. They're more adventurous. They're very excited for new things and new change. But for a lot of us, change is difficult. Change is scary. And so with this, there are going to be a lot of changes. And you may remember when we first started talking, we were talking about stress and what that was and how it was triggered. And one of the things that triggers stress is a lack of control and fear of the unknown. We don't have control over the situation still. We don't know what to expect from the future. We have some ideas of what may happen with COVID-19, but we have to remember we are not out of COVID-19. A lot of people think, oh, good, it's ending, we're out of COVID-19. Even if you were in one of those really badly hit areas and you saw basically the bomb go off, and now people are starting to pick up the pieces again, in your mind, it may be over because the curve is flattened, things are, going down the other end, and people are picking up the pieces. But that's only in your little segment of the world that the curve may have flattened, that things may be improving, because there are other areas where the illness is escalating and they are still getting ready to hit the worst of it. And that's rippling all around the world. Combine that with the fact that this is a virus, and we already know that there are now several strains of it and that it's changing. It will go into cold and flu season, and it will have changed significantly. We're going to be dealing with this for a good period of time. And as this mutates and changes, even those of us who have been exposed to it before, number one, we don't understand what happens even for people who have antibodies, how protective they will be, how long they will last. The other part of it is because it does mutate and change, even people who have been exposed to it before, when they see it again, it's not going to be the exact same entity. And we do not know how well the antibodies that have been developed by people who have been exposed will cover them when it comes back around. We have to expect that because it will have changed, they may have some coverage, but they won't have full coverage. So for people who are thinking, oh, well, I had COVID-19, so I'm not going to get it again, that's going to be a fallacy. It's going to be like flu. We may have had flu before, but that doesn't mean we won't get flu again. And even if the exact same strain came around, well, because now there are all of these mutated strains, the strain we get may be one of the mutated strains. And so we may not get as sick because we've had flu before, but we still will get sick from the new strain. So we have to anticipate that, and we cannot let our guard completely down. The other thing is that we need to recognize that we have changed. We've gone through what is a traumatic experience, no matter whether you were sick, no matter whether you knew somebody that got sick or not. It doesn't matter whether you believed in this whole COVID-19 thing, because there are still people out there who don't even believe this is real, that this is a conspiracy, whatever. It doesn't matter what your belief or your experience was during that. We all went through it, and it was traumatic for all of us because it dramatically changed our world. And so, on the other side of this, as we're coming out with the expectation of the world being the same. But Nasira, even if the world was exactly the same when we return to it, we're not the same. So when we come back to it, there is going to be a sense, almost an out of body kind of experience. You're looking back on things, but you feel out of place. You're going to feel like you don't quite belong here anymore. And there's going to be a sense of, I don't know where I am. I don't know what I'm doing. Something just doesn't feel right. And this is causing a lot of stress. And the people who are already coming out are feeling a lot of depression, uh, even a lot more of the fight or flight kind of sensation than they did while they were sheltering in, because they were sheltered in and they were just anxious to get out. I can't do this. I'm going crazy. And they come out into this crazy world that isn't the same. They're not the same, and they don't know how to escape from that. Where can I run to, or who do I fight with to make things feel right again?
Right. And I guess this is the disconnect. This is why there's a struggle between what we want and what we are actually coming out into. They're so drastically different. And as you said, we are different. So now we're like, we don't belong, we don't know. And so, how would you say, in terms of coping strategies for people as we begin this journey of coming out, what would you suggest?
As we begin this journey of coming out, what's going to be really important is remembering how we got through COVID-19. We had a certain set of coping skills that we developed. We talked about our nutrition. We learned some good nutritional tips for handling stress, for optimizing our immune system, for making our bodies function better. We need to stick with those. As a matter of fact, they're almost more important now than they were before, because again, we're not out of COVID-19. So we still need to maintain that immunity. We'll be returning back around people, and in some ways, we may have a slightly depressed immunity because we haven't been touching and sharing and experiencing. So, defenses our body had built up from the bacteria and viruses we were exposed to in our environments may have waned a little bit. So, we'll have to rev that system back up. So, it's even more important to heighten our immunity at this time. We need to eat well. We also need to continue exercising. One of the things that I'm seeing is, as COVID-19 has worn on and people were sheltered in the initial part of it, people were outside, they were walking, they were running, they were riding their bikes, they were doing physical things to help manage the stress, to get exercise, whatever, to mitigate the boredom. But now they have stopped doing those things. All the poor little dogs that were so happy to be out getting their walks are no longer getting their walks. we have to maintain those activities. They are good, healthy lifestyle changes that, again, are going to optimize our health overall, not just our physical health, but our mental and emotional health. So we need to continue those types of activities. One of the things that will be different as we're coming out of sheltering in is that we will once again be able to socialize and interact with other people. I encourage that. I encourage seeing friends and using those resources to support you. I do, though, remind you we are not out of COVID-19. Do not throw away the social distancing. Keep that in place. Continue washing your hands. Wash your hands. Wash your hands. And it's kind of an interesting thing I'm seeing is that even people who are washing their hands, we had it drilled into us 20 seconds. Again, people are doing the stick them in the sink, shake them off, and run. Continue to use those practices. Good hand washing practices should be there for life. We wash our hands for a reason to get rid of bacteria, and that rinse and run doesn't really do that. Even if you're just using water, no soap, no sanitizer, using water and the friction actually releases the bacteria and viral particles from our hands. And if we're getting in between the crevices around the thumbs and such, that removes those harmful particles from our hands. People are people are not good about that in general. And they're like, well, if the threat is over, we don't have to be that careful. Well, these were good health hygiene practices from the beginning. Some people didn't have them and learned them. Some of us had to have them reinforced. It's just basic good health hygiene. So remember to wash your hands.
Right. And I think one point for us coming on the broadcast was the people that were wearing masks, you're almost noticing that now you're lessening that need or feeling
Yes.
more secure that you can still kind of get away with it, right, without having a mask on. And I know you mentioned that it's really, really important to keep up with the protocols, even if we're engaging
Yes.
socially.
Yes, yes, it is very important. One of the things that I am again, we talked about how to properly wear a mask, and I think because people feel that there's not as much of a need, which is a false sense of security, especially now, if you're going back out. This is not over. This is not over. This is not over. Okay? If you're going back out, it's even more important to social distance and wear that mask, because now you are going to be putting yourself out where you may be exposed.
Right.
And if you're wearing that mask down here and your nose is exposed, I had a conversation with a gentleman in the store, pulled down his mask and said, well, people are, worried about getting too much CO2 with the mask on. And it's like, hello, wearing a mask is not novel. People have been doing it in Asia for years now. And people who have jobs like coal miners and the people who are working in the sewer plants and such, they 8 hours a day, 12 hours a day for years, for lifetimes. People in these jobs as careers have been wearing a mask every day, and they're fine. You have much less risk from wearing that mask than you do from being exposed to the illness. The other thing that I'm seeing is there's a divide developing because some people are wearing masks and some people are not. People who are wearing masks are resentful of the people who are not. People who are not wearing masks, who are, just throwing caution to the winds, have become really aggressive against people who are wearing masks, speaking loudly, saying bad things about them, about how neurotic, obsessed, crazy they are, and, buying into this. I'm really seeing some mean behaviors coming out of this, and people need to be aware that we do need to pull together. People have been traumatized. We are all emotionally distraught, and picking at each other is not going to help anything. And people need to be aware also that as we come out of situations like this, there is a tendency for high risk behaviors to develop. People are out using roads with speed limits that may be 55 or 65. They're driving them like the Autobahn, speeds of over, 100, and we're seeing the fallout of that. A woman and her children were getting ready to come off of the intersection. Someone was going too fast, and they ran up into her. If that was bad enough, the person behind them was going equally fast. All were going, well, the woman was doing the speed limit. All of the others were going over 100 miles an hour. There was a van behind the vehicle that hit her. The van plowed into the vehicle that hit her and basically pushed it through the car. And the woman and all of the children in the car died. Unnecessary behavior, but people are driving aggressively. They're running stoplights. Again, they're aggressive with each other in the store. People are drinking more. They're using drugs more as they're coming out because they feel like they've been deprived of these things. If they were things that they used to engage in socially, now they're going overboard with them. We have the potential to see strained relationships because people are, again, they're just engaging in risky behavior. Plus, one thing to think about as people are coming out, because we have been isolated, people are going to be grouping. And oftentimes, when we get into group behaviors, groups of people, we develop group mentality. We develop uh, a herd mentality that may allow us to do things in the group that we would not ordinarily do as individuals. It may allow us to make decisions with the group that we would find unconscionable as an individual. So we need to think about the things that we're doing and why we're doing. And we need to pull back and say, is this who I am? Is this a choice that I should be making? And why am I making it? And is this choice likely to hurt me or somebody else? Think, process, reach back and use the coping skills that we've learned because we need them. We've been traumatized. We're still in the war. We can relax a little bit, but we cannot let down our guard.
This is a really important thing, right? We can't come at each other and become rebellions. Yes, there's a lot of trauma, but in terms of actually attacking each other is defeating everything that we have, stood for in our communities and how we want to show up for the world. So at this point, it's more about even, becoming greater than that which we even thought was possible by being kinder to each other, by community and by contribution, become better versions of ourselves.
Yes, yes. I remember back in the 60s, we had this whole movement when we had the whole hippie generation thing going on, but we had this whole movement of, make peace, not war, love, peace, the whole bit. I think that we really have to embrace that again at the risk of sounding corny. What the world needs now is love, just like the song says. We need to be loving and gentle with each other at this time. We need to be supportive of each other. It takes more muscles to frown than it does to smile, and smiles are infectious. If you smile at the person next to you, even behind a mask, if you smile, your eyes smile, your face lights up. and people know that you're smiling. And if you smile, something in you changes and you feel more positive. You're less likely to be depressed. And when you share that smile with someone else, it's a little sunshine in their day. They're more likely to respond positively to you, which is going to reinforce you and make you feel better about your situation and yourself. We need to be loving, gentle, and positive in this situation. As bad as it has been, as bad as it may feel right now, as bad as it may get, because it could get worse before it gets better, if we are able to maintain a countenance of positivity, if we are able to smile and use good humor, it helps. I'm in what's called a virtual happy hour group. I don't even drink, but I'm in this virtual happy hour group, and two rules are you cannot be negative. If you're negative, you're going to get booted out, and you have to bring a bad joke. And the jokes are horrible and it's somewhat juvenile, but I am there at 5 o'clock on Friday, every Friday, because I need it, because people in there are light and jovial, and it's a moment for everybody to just kind of woosah, let down their hair. And we need to do that with each other. We need to be positive with each other.
I think in terms of if we can become positive, pay it forward, and like a collective consciousness of that energy will expand. And this is why it is so important to keep that positivity. So we need to find ways that feeds us positivity. So whether it's a happy hour virtually, or whether it's meditation, whether it's exercise, whatever that means, if we can spend more time doing that, it'll raise our vibration, which in turn will help raise others. So I think that today's topic was a needed topic as we start opening the doors and going out, but also in terms of our mental and emotional health, that we need to be even more conscious of what we're feeding it and containing that level of energy and kindness and compassion, because really we're all in this together. When we were sheltering, we were in it together, and as we're coming out, we're all in it together. So I think the importance here is to just remember that we are, allies for each other. We're on the same team, really. That's it. We're all on the same team.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And so I love talking to you. I think our conversations are so heart-centered, and I hope that those that watch it and those that watch it on replay can share it and really feel the energies that we're trying to put out there, and then pay it forward. So I just wanted to share this comment that Susan just put up for us. True connection with others is so very important right now, and finding joy in every moment is a must. So I think these are things that we need to share because it helps everybody. And so I just want to let people know that, if they wanted to contact you, they can go to your website. There's lots of resources. You're more than willing to, chat with people if they want to have any questions. And I want to thank you. I look forward to our chat next Friday, wishing you a wonderful weekend. And if you have any parting words for us now.
Peace. Peace. Be peaceful, be positive, be love. Peace.
Thank you. Peace to you too. So that was our session today on as we come out of not COVID-19. We're all in COVID-19. It's still going to be a part of us for pretty long time, because we're not out of it, as the doctor mentioned. However, as we come out, the importance about keeping a positive mind and allowing ourselves to show up for others in a compassionate manner is going to make this world a better place, and our experience a far more engaging and also fulfilling. So I wish you all a happy Friday. I can't wait to see you all on Monday again. The broadcast starts at 10 a.m. So if you want to, if you have any content, if you feel like you wanted to ask questions, by all means, you can private message me. If you have questions for the doctor, please reach out to her on her website. Wishing you all a beautiful Friday. Be kind to yourself and to others. And I love you.